Hi friends, today we're going to practice measuring angles. This is a protractor. A protractor is a tool that helps us measure angles. Your first step in measuring angles is to classify the angle. Is it acute, right, or obtuse? And if you remember, a right angle is exactly 90 degrees. An obtuse angle is greater than 90 degrees, and an acute angle is less than 90 degrees. On this slide, I have a picture of a card that I use in class to help classify angles. You can use any piece of paper, a note card, a sticky note, anything with a square corner to help you classify angles. As you can see, right here, it says that you have an obtuse angle if one line touches the card and the other does not. Up here, it says you have a right angle if both lines are touching the edge of the card. And then over here, an acute angle will have one line touching the card and the other is covered by the card. On this page, I have an angle and a card. I lined up the angle's vertex with the corner of the card. Then I lined up the bottom ray with the bottom edge of the card. So when I line up the vertex with the corner of the card and the bottom ray with the bottom edge of the card, I can see that my other ray is not touching the card. That makes this an obtuse angle. So the obtuse angle is when one ray touches the card and the other ray does not. Okay, on this angle, I lined up the vertex with the corner of the card and I lined up the bottom ray with the bottom of the card. The other ray is being covered by the card. So when one ray touches the card and the other ray is covered by the card, this is an acute angle. It is less than 90 degrees. Okay, now when you have both rays lining up exactly with your card, that makes it a right angle because both rays are touching the card. It is important when you use a square corner to always line up the corner with the vertex of your angle. Okay, now we're going to look at a protractor. We use protractors to measure angles. It is important to know how to read the measurements on a protractor so that we can determine the degree of an angle. There are two sets of numbers on a protractor. You have your inside numbers, and on this protractor, your 0 is on the right side of your inside numbers. As we move along the protractor, we can see that they are counting by multiples of 10. 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, all the way to 180. We also have numbers on the outside. Our 0 for the outside numbers is on the left on this protractor. And as we move around the protractor on the outside numbers, we can see they are also counting by multiples of 10. 0, 10, 20, 30, all the way to 180. We have numbers on the inside of the protractor and the outside of the protractor so that we can measure angles that are opening to the left and angles that open to the right. Now we're going to look at an angle on a protractor. The first thing we ask ourselves, is this an obtuse angle or an acute angle? Okay, I'm looking at this angle and I can see that it's less than a 90-degree angle. It is closed more, so this is an acute angle. Okay, now I need to ask myself, is one of the rays on 0? So I'm looking at the bottom ray right here, And I'm going to follow it over, and I'm going to see if it's crossing through 0. This is important today because all of our angles, one of our angles is going to be on 0 degrees. Tomorrow you'll have a lesson with Miss Wood on how to find the measurement of angles that are not on 0. So if I follow the ray over, I can see that 0 is on the outside. So I'm going to use the outside numbers to determine the measurement. I'm going to follow the numbers around until I get to the other ray. I can see that the ray is crossing right here. Now I'm going to look at the numbers that the ray goes through. It goes through 50 and it goes through 130. We already said that we're using the outside numbers of the protractor because 0 is on the outside. So my outside measurement is 50 degrees. So this angle measures 50 degrees. Now I need to go back and double check. Was this an obtuse angle or was this an acute angle? Well, we determined that this was an acute angle. So we could use that also to help us determine the measurement of the angle. When I look, I see that it crosses at 50 degrees and 130. Which one of those degrees is an acute measurement? Well, I know 130 is greater than 90 degrees, so that's an obtuse measurement. And 50 is less than 90 degrees, so that makes it an acute measurement, an acute angle. So this angle is 50 degrees. Okay, now we're going to look at another angle. The first thing we have to do is determine whether or not this angle is acute or obtuse. I can see that it's opening more than 90 degrees, so that has to make it an obtuse angle. Now that I've determined that it's an obtuse angle, I'm going to follow my bottom ray over to figure out where 0 is. I can see that 0 is on the inside, so that means I'm going to be using the inside numbers to measure this angle. So I'm going to follow my protractor all the way around until I get to my other ray. Okay. I can see that my ray is crossing in this area. That's between 120 and 130. We're not going to use 50 and 60 because those are on the outside and those are acute measurements. If you notice, our ray is not going exactly across a multiple of 10. So we're going to have to use these little marks in between our multiples of 10 to help us determine the degree. Right here is a darker mark. This represents our 5s. So if we are looking between 120 and 130, that would make this tick mark 125. 125 degrees. But as you can see, our ray is not going through our 125 degree mark. So we're going to have to count by ones until we get to our ray. So if we're at 125, 126, 127. So this angle measures 127 degrees. Is that an obtuse measurement? Yes, it is, because 127 is greater than 90 degrees. Okay, our next angle is right here. First, we have to determine, is it acute or is it obtuse? Well, we can see that a right angle, our 90 degree, is right here. Our angle is less than 90, so that's going to make it an acute angle. an acute angle. Okay, so I'm going to follow my ray, and I'm going to find where 0 is. 0 is on the outside, so I'm going to use the outside numbers to find the measurement. I follow my protractor over. Okay, I can see that it's crossing right here. Once again, this one is not crossing on a multiple of 10. This one is crossing exactly halfway between my multiples of 10. Okay, so I have 70 and 80, I have 110 and 100. We already said this is an acute angle and that we were using the outside numbers. So we're going to be using 70 and 80 to help us determine the degree. Well, halfway between 70 and 80 would be 75 degrees. I could double check that by counting 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75. 75 is less than 90 degrees, so this would be a reasonable measurement for an acute angle. Okay, on this angle, we're going to be measuring this angle right here. I can see that this is less than 90, so this is going to be an acute angle. I'm going to put an A for acute. We're going to follow our ray over until we get to 0. Okay, so we're going to be using the inside numbers. I follow my protractor until I get to my other ray, and I can see that my other ray is not going exactly over a multiple of 10. This is also going halfway between my multiples of 10. So I'm going to circle my 2 degrees that it's in between, and I can see it's between 30 and 40. I know that halfway between 30 and 40 would be 35 degrees. You can see that the inside numbers do not have all the small tick marks like the outside numbers. So we have to use the outside tick marks right here to help us find the in-between measurements. So this would be 100, or this would be 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. Okay, so now we have another one. Is this an obtuse or an acute angle? It is an obtuse. I'm going to put obtuse. We're going to follow our bottom ray over. And if you notice, this one does not have 0. So I'm going to have to use what I know about numbers. Okay, well 10 is right here. So that means that 0 would be right here. I wouldn't go 0, 170. So 0, 10, 20, 30. So I'm going to be using the outside numbers. I'm going to follow my protractor all the way around. I can see that my other ray is crossing through right here. It is on a multiple of 10. I have 30 and 150. We already said we were using the outside numbers, so I know that this is 150 degrees. And I could double check by asking myself, is 150 degrees an obtuse measurement? Yes, it is, because it is greater than 90 degrees. Okay, now I have this angle right here. We follow our bottom ray over. I see that 10's right here, so 0 is going to be right here. We're using the outside numbers again. I'm going to follow my protractor around, and I can see that my ray is crossing at 40 degrees. Is 40 degrees an acute measurement? Yes, it is. So this is a reasonable measurement for an acute angle. Thank you for watching today's PowerPoint on measuring angles. If you have any more questions, please send a message to your teacher through the Teams app. Also, there is an assignment for you to complete in Teams today, measuring angles. Please complete this assignment, upload it in Teams, and make sure you turn in your assignments before the end of the day. Thank you.